Thank you, everyone. So my message today is what's inside. And do you know that when we're born, there are 26 billion cells in our bodies? And as we grow and develop into adulthood, that number raises and rises to 50 trillion cells. So each one of us in here has 50 trillion cells in our body. Isn't that powerful? Now the main job of these cells is to perform the many jobs necessary to stay alive, such as moving oxygen around your body, taking care of the fuel supply, communications, and waste removal. Now this sounds like we're talking about a machine more than a body, I think, when you think about those things that those cells do. But what's neat about this machine that we call our body is that it houses a wonderful thing called spirit. And that's what's powerful. And today we're going to explore what's inside our bodies and what we can do spiritually with that information. But first, let's affirm our statements of truth together, shall we? I am a child of God. I am deserving of good in my life. I am accepting my good now. Well, in terms of cell types, the body contains hundreds of different kinds of cells. But the largest number of cells in your body, believe it or not, are not human cells. They consist of bacteria, which are found in your gastrointestinal tract. So the very thing we worry about, germs and bacteria, is what makes up most of our body cells. It kind of seems oxymoron, doesn't it? And to me, what that reminded me of is the idea of this unity song that says, in the very middle, you're a lot like me. I don't know if you've ever heard that song. It's really a kid's song, but it's really powerful. But it shows the oneness of God, and it shows how that oneness of God shows up. If we all have that 50 trillion cells, and we all are in the same inside, then that's that expression of God that is us as us. And all of these cells that we have in there, even the bacteria ones, are good cells, believe it or not. They all do what they're supposed to do for our bodies to make our bodies work to their highest good. And that's what's inside of us. And you might be thinking, I know all of that. I took biology or anatomy or whatever it is you took to figure that out. Maybe even Gabe might even have already learned it in preschool. Who knows? But what does that have to do with our spiritual self? And what does any of that information have to do with how we live our life today? Well, I kind of came upon this thinking about Tiny's Burris's vegetarian challenge that she put on Facebook, and I have some flyers out there too, and she's passed them out to some of you. And I was thinking about, how what we eat makes a difference to our bodies. And if you saw that first picture of what's on your bulletin, that's what it is. Inside that little guy is a bunch of food. And if you notice the arms I think it's the arms that are stacked up with donuts. That would be Reverend Warren. But it is true that science and religion have, in the past, were always synonymous. They were always kind of one thing. And I got to thinking about this because I've been reading a lot about New Thought history. And so I was thinking to myself, if these guys were scientists and they were researching this, maybe the idea of science and religion is one of the reasons why we separate us and God. Maybe that idea, when they separated science and religion, it gave us the idea that God is a separate thing from us. And so we need to bring those two back together in order to realize that oneness of God that is always with us as us moving through us. And when that happened, when they started pulling that apart, there were major things happening in history and also major things that were happening in creating new spiritual movements. And what I'm referring to is New Thought, or what Warren calls original thought. See, there was a shift in energy that sparked new thoughts in people. And it began with scientific experiments to see what we were thinking, is that showing up within us, and how does that show up within us, and can we change what is showing up within us? Can we change what's inside by how we think? And that's how the whole experiment started. Phineas Parkhurst Quimby, better known as P.P. Quimby, because you can't say that name very much, was an insightful spiritual teacher, but he actually began his work in 1938, which prompted new thought. 1838, I'm sorry, I do that sometimes. 1838, which prompted the New Thought movement. So, and he was actually the first one that started really teaching others. And he started with studying mesmerism, or what we call hypnotism, because he saw some guys that were being hypnotists with people, and they were doing things that they suggested to these people to do. But he thought to himself, if the power of thought could change that much, then why do we need these hypnotists? And why do we have to go through that? Why can't we just start thinking differently and change how we are? And his discoveries led him to realize that he could heal himself, that he could heal others, and that he could heal others that weren't even in his midst, that he could heal people from afar. And if you think about silent unity and people calling into silent unity for prayers, or you writing down all your friends' prayer requests, or even like the prayer shawl to Kat, I mean, those prayers are helping her heal. That prayer shawl is helping her heal, and it's changing the way her body is working on the inside. And that's what happened. But the whole idea of that was huge at that time, because there was some crazy stuff happening in the 1800s in the United States, and they were not on a spiritual realm. For example, from 1831 to 1838, I said 18, members of the Cherokee, Muskogee, Seminole, Chickasaw, and Choctaw nations were, against their will, relocated during the Trail of Tears in the United States. That's not the only thing. In 1838, Lilburn Boggs, governor of Missouri, by Missouri Executive Order 44, declares Mormons to be enemies of the state and encourages the slaughter or exile of the religious minority, forcing nearly 10,000 Mormons out of the state. It was a travesty. People were being treated unfairly. Indians and Mormons were being persecuted for what they believed and who they were. And this was not the only thing, because during this time slavery was still strong, and African Americans were men and women and children were being abused by their slave owners or the slave owners' help. You see, from 1861 to 1865, the Civil War was fought. In the middle of this war, on January 1st, 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation was issued, specifically naming 10 states in which slaves would be forever free, although most of them didn't start moving that direction until about 1865. And still, it was struggles. The country was shifting into a new paradigm. From 1838 and Quimby's first discoveries through 1889, when a spiritual movement emerges called Unity, created by co-founders Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, many new truth students emerged during that time, finding new aspects to the teachings of Jesus. It was a time when new ideas were emerging because of the stress in the world. Something had to burst forth as truth, because there was too much travesty in the world. There was too much going on that was not right. And something had to burst. Truth emerged, capital T, truth emerged, because people needed to see more of that in the world instead of what was happening to them. They longed for it. Their souls were crying out for it, just maybe, particularly as it is today, with all this going on with ISIS and all of that. People's souls are being stimulated to say, let's stop this madness. Let's change how we're doing the things. How can we make the world a better place? And we have to realize it begins within each of us. We have to change how we believe and how we think and what we're praying for and with. 100 years prior to P.P. Quimby, though, was a man named Emanuel Swedenborg. And he was beginning to feel that stir in him. And he had a prolific career as an inventor and scientist. And in 1741, at age 53, he entered into a spiritual phase in which he began to experience dreams and visions. And interestingly enough, he published a book called The Dynamics of the Soul's Domain, which was published twice. And the first one is written about heart and blood, because he was a scientist. The second one is about the brain and nervous system and the soul. So here is the scientist already starting to express. And P.P. Quimby got some of his stuff from Swedenborg. And here's what he wrote. He describes a subtle spiritual fluid that permeates and sustains all living creatures, existing in a complicated interaction with the blood and the cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebral. Sorry.
Cerebral.
You say it.
Cerebral.
There you go. Very good. Everybody all together. The origin of life. You guys will always help me out on pronunciation. The origin of life is a sustaining energy that pervades all of creation, and the source of that energy is God. 1741 he wrote this. Thus, nature derives life in all its forms from that creative energy and would be dead without divine influence. Now that's powerful. That creative energy that is sustaining our energy is our source of energy from God. Isn't that great? And once we realize this creative energy, we can use it to do the mighty works that we are to do. And you might be asking yourself, well, what are the mighty works that I'm supposed to do? Because I'm just sitting here thinking, what the heck am I supposed to do? But Jesus said in John 14:12, very truly I tell you, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do, and in fact will do greater works than these, because I am going to the Father. The important word in there is the one who believes in me. And when he says that, he's referring to what's inside of him, which is what? Spirit, the Christ, that powerful creative energy from the source that we call God. That's what it is. And so my answer for you is that we are to do the mighty works. We are here to do the mighty works, and I believe, and even suggesting to all of us, that we are the people that can do that. We can. And probably just like you and me, most people ask themselves, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to know what is really mine to do? And how do I figure that all out? Well, I believe sometimes we don't even know what is ours to do. That what happens is when the time comes up, we all of a sudden know that this is ours to do, that we're to do it. You know, have you ever been asked to do something and say, no, I don't want to do that. And then one day you think, maybe that is mine to do. Maybe I do need to volunteer to do that. Maybe that's where my creative energy needs to be, and then you find all kinds of joy from that. But that's the way the creative energy works in us. And I do think that our frame of mind has a lot to do with it, don't get me wrong. It makes a big difference in how we understand how to use this creative energy in order to figure out what it is that we are supposed to do. We have to hold thoughts that reflect the capital T truth, number one. And we have to be happy and joy-filled, and we can experience all our abundant blessings. Now, some people say, I don't feel happy sometimes, and that's okay. And I'm going to give you some hints here in a minute. But we can do some things to help prepare ourselves to be receptive to learning and knowing and listening to that message of what is ours to do. One thing we do, of course, is, and we always say, is to pray and meditate. We all know this, right? We're all true students. We all know that this is what we are to do, is pray and meditate. And we have to switch our thinking. We have to get off of the negative railroad and start thinking the truth and the positive energy and stuff that we know. And then our results will be good. Our results will be filled with joy and happiness. But I want to share some suggestions from this another neuroscientist and writer that is, her name's Gabrielle LeBlanc, and she is in Washington, D.C., and she wrote a wonderful piece for Oprah, and it was on her website, and I just thought it was fabulous, so I'm going to share some bits of this. She wrote 5 things happy people do, and she shares that sages going back to Socrates have offered advice on how to be happy. But only now are scientists beginning to address this question with systematic controlled research. You see, they are like a lot of us. They want proof that something's going to work, right? Don't we go there? We think, oh, that sounds like a good idea, but I'm not going to do it till I have proof. No. And you get a message sometimes and you think, oh, this is the message I'm supposed to do. Well, how am I going to know that's going to work? Or where am I going to get enough energy to be able to do that? Or where am I going to get enough money? Or what if? Yeah, well, that's one of the things we're going to look at in a minute. But her suggestions of 5 things happy people do is they find their golden self. Researchers now believe that eudaimonic well-being may be more important. Cobbled from the Greek word eu, meaning good, and daemon, meaning spirit or deity, eudaimonia means striving towards excellence based on one's unique talents and potential or positive human function. What does that sound like? Unity, our teachings. Aristotle considered it to be the noblest goal in life. In his time, the Greeks believed that each child was blessed at birth with a personal spirit embodying the highest possible expression of his or her nature. We say this over and over again. The children are born with that essence, and we are all children at one time, and we can be that essence of that same thing we were born with. The effort is to know and realize oneself is personal growth, which also come to include continually taking on new challenges and fulfilling one's sense of purpose in life. Spiritual growth encompasses all of these aspects of growth, believe it or not. And like I said, none of this is new to us. This is what we believe in unity. But I think we can agree on this positive human functioning or eudaimonic thinking as they describe. Number 2, she says, they design their lives to bring in joy. It may seem obvious, but people don't devote enough time to thinking seriously about how they spend their life and how much of it they actually enjoy, said David Shakade, PhD, a psychologist and professor of management at the University of California, San Diego. This is interesting because he did a study where he asked more than 900 working women, and I think that's important, to write down everything they had done the day before. Have any of you women ever done that? I mean, you might not be working, but you are working because I know you're all busy. But anyway, write down what you've done the day before, and afterwards when they reviewed what they had written down, they were shocked that they had done so many things that they really didn't enjoy doing. And there were some of them crying as they reread what they wrote down because they couldn't believe that they used so much time doing things that they didn't do that they realized why they weren't finding joy in their life. So his suggestion was that all they needed to do is take an hour of their day to enjoy something that they enjoy. Of course, he said, take out something that you dislike, and he used, for an example, commuting or scrubbing your bathroom. Now, to me, scrubbing the bathroom is a happy thing, not a bad thing, but, we each have our things we like and don't like. But change that 1 hour a day to things that you like if you like reading or spending time with friends or just, sitting out on the porch and watching nature. Spend an hour each day, and it can be powerful. And he said the key to the whole thing is taking action. We all say, okay, I'm going to spend an hour of my day doing something I really like doing and make myself happy. But do we ever really take our calendar and block out an hour for that? Yeah, we might do it, and we might do it sometimes, but are we doing it each and every day? Because I guess it changes, and I'm going to try this too, changes your whole focus on finding joy and happiness. And you know what happens when we're happy? Everyone around us is happy, aren't they? So it ripples out, and it ripples out beyond you to the other people that they are encountering and doing. Yeah, I mean, it's true. 3, we go to the if only. They avoid the if only fantasies. If only I get a better job. If only I find a man. If only I lose the weight. Life will be perfect. Happy people don't buy into this kind of thinking, they say. And I know I'm singing to the choir on this one too, probably. But, we know that we have to affirm our good. That we have to know that good is here for us, here and now. And when we affirm that good, we know that good's going to come forth, don't we? Yeah. So that switches our thinking. It switches how we look at things. And it takes us away from that drama zone and allows that highest good to come forth through us in every situation, the minute we switch that thinking. 4, they put friends first. Whatever his name is, assistant professor of psychology at Northern, I practiced, but I can't do it right now, is simple companionship. Just hanging out, he says. Hitting the mall or going to the movies together, or what I like to say, it's about sharing time here at church with each other. Because when you're around people that have the same frame of mind as you do, when you're thinking happy thoughts, when you're thinking good thoughts, when you have that down day and you say, I need prayer, and the person prays with you, and all of a sudden that feels so much better, or you see the results of that prayer, then you know that you're in the right place at the right time. And that's what it's about, hanging out with the people that are going to make you feel that way, that you're going to feel like your inside is bursting forth and feeling that joy and that happiness. And that's what it's about. And this 5th one is really cool because we don't do this sometimes. They allow themselves to be happy. As much as we all think we want it, many of us are convinced deep down that it's wrong to be happy or too happy. Whether the belief comes from religion, culture, or the family you're raised in, it usually leaves you feeling guilty if you're having fun. Well, I am a happy person, and I've always felt happiness on the inside. And there have been times, though, that I have felt sad. And I thought about this when I was writing this paper, and I thought, sometimes I'll just turn to Reverend Moore and say, I just feel like I want to cry. Anybody ever feel that way? Like you could be going along, just everything great, and then all of a sudden you want to just cry. And he'll say, why do you want to cry? And I'd say, I don't know. But when I read this, it made me realize that sometimes I think I'm feeling the pain of the world. Where that sense that something has to burst forth, that truth has to burst forth because there's too much of that junk in the world. I think sometimes we feel that, and we have to release that, and that's, for me, a way to release, is just to cry and let it go. Because I always feel better after I do that. I do. I always feel better, and there's sometimes I still feel that way, even though, I'm praying and meditating and doing all this stuff every day. However, there was a time in my life where I felt the guilt. I was in 5th through 8th grade. I remember strongly that any time I wanted to go somewhere, like to a friend's house to spend the night, or I wanted to go to a birthday party of a friend, or just go anywhere with anyone, that I always had to kind of downplay what I was doing to my mom because she would get, I guess what you call jealous, but she would, always get in a cranky mood if I just was all excited about it. The other thing I always had to do is I always had to kind of do something before I asked her, like clean the house, or scrub the bathrooms, or whatever, to get her to say yes so I could earn the privilege of hanging out with my friends. Now, even though I kept my mom from being cranky, I didn't want her to think that I was having too much fun, so when I came home, I would always act like, oh, it was okay, even though I was out there having a blast, I wasn't going to let that stop me. But I come home, oh, yeah, it was all right. But, and I realized that this really probably wasn't a normal thing that my mom did, but she just sometimes did not know how to find happiness. And yet, there were times in her life that she was happy. I remember some times where she'd laugh, and when she'd do that, you could see how free she would get. When she was truly being free on the inside and just laughing and not letting whatever it was cause her to keep from feeling that honest joy and happiness. But after reading this, I thought maybe my mom could have had more happy moments had she not been thinking this way, because I think her embedded theology was related to this quote from Howard Cutler, and I'm going to share it with you. Some people would say you shouldn't strive for personal happiness until you've taken care of everyone in the world who is starving or doesn't have adequate medical care.
Wow.
Yeah, now he is a co-author with the Dalai Lama on the art of happiness in a troubled world. And the thing about it was, I thought, how many people are in that boat? How many people think that because there's stuff going on out there that they can't be happy in here? And that's the wrong thinking, because how do we change what's out there? by changing our thinking about it, by changing how we feel about it. And what was so brilliant is that the Dalai Lama believes that we should pursue both at the same time. And that's powerful. And we can do that in prayer and meditation. We can do that with things that we do to reach out to the community. And, we can do it by changing our thoughts, because we know what we're thinking ripples out to the people around us, which ripples out to the people around them, which ripples out. And that's how consciousness works. The research showed that happy people tend to be more open to helping people. So if you're in this boat, just tell yourself, hey, I can get out of that boat and quit rowing that boat because I'm going to help somebody. I'm going to be in that openness of helping other people. Mindy and I kind of shared, and Maria kind of shared something about this before service, that a lot of people get joy and feel good about giving to others and helping others. And that's a powerful thing. They also make, believe it or not, happy people make better spouses and partners. Imagine that. We've never experienced that in our lives, have we? So if you need more persuading, they suggest that you go out and help someone and allow that happiness to come forth through you. You see, if we open up to what is inside of us, we will naturally be happier and more joyous, won't we? Myrtle Fillmore took the idea of science and prayer, took the idea of that changing your thoughts and using that scientific information, and changed her whole life. Because Myrtle Fillmore looked at all those cells in her body. And when I read that it was 50 trillion cells, all these years I've been saying she prayed to every cell in her body. But when I realized it was 50 trillion cells, I realized that's probably why it took her 2 years to pray and get well. But Myrtle did this every day. She prayed to each one of those cells, and she'd start with her toes and pray up her legs and see each and every cell in her body being whole and perfect and expressing that truth that she knew within herself. And it healed her. She used the idea of science and prayer and happiness to heal her body and her soul. She prayed to every bit of it. And the thing was that she had been told for her whole life that she had tuberculosis, and that she had to sit back and just watch everybody have fun and sit there and not get too excited, because that would flare up the tuberculosis and all of this. And she says probably the thing that saved her was being able to read. She'd go steal books from her brother. Of course, she was a girl, she wasn't allowed to read, but she'd go steal books from her brother and read those books. And she says she thinks that's what kept her going through adulthood. But the thing that she really had to heal from is the negative thinking that she had been told all her life. She had to change those thoughts in order to heal. And so praying to those cells was also seeing new thoughts about herself and her entire life. She had to do that work in order to get over the idea that she was not, that she was a child of God. Well, once she claimed for herself what E.B. Weeks told her in a scientific Christian lecture, see, they used to run together. She knew she had found the words and thoughts and the ideas that set her free and release her from any pain and suffering. And I'm not even talking about just the body pain and suffering, the thoughts of the pain and suffering. And those words were, I am a child of God, therefore I do not inherit sickness. Can we all say that together? I am a child of God, therefore I do not inherit sickness. Now those scientific words were the words that she prayed over each and every cell. And ultimately she received freedom. Freedom from the negative and untrue life she had lived. And she came into herself, and she was able at that point to grow to the spiritual understanding of not only helping millions of people, but she continues to help people today, and she's been gone a long time. And I bet if we asked her, if she was here today and we asked her, how did you know that was yours to do? How do you know that what was yours to do was to be this person that healed themselves and started sharing that with other people, which resulted in silent unity being formed, which is still going on today, which resulted in this spiritual movement and people making a difference in your life? I bet she would tell us, just like we are today, I didn't know it was mine to do. I just did the next thing. And when I did the next thing, that led me to the greatness that has happened today. And she would probably be almost embarrassed to think that that little change in her life, which was huge for her, made a difference in so many people's lives and continues to make difference in life. So we never know what is ours to do until it's that time to do it. And that's when we have to listen and say, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm not going to allow anything to stand in the way. I'm doing it. I'm going out and doing what is mine to do. You see, she followed her guidance and she followed the truth and she found what resonated with her and the mighty works followed. She found her golden self. She designed her life by using affirmations and studying and sharing what she knew. Key point. That's why we have our fifth unity principle. She shared what she knew with other people. She never said, if only I was well. If only was not in her vocabulary. She put her friends first by making everybody family. That's what we do here. You guys are all our family. And of course, she allowed herself to be happy. And I think we can all know what's inside of us because when we follow the examples of those who've gone before us to show us the way, and when we incorporate all this into our daily lives, our Christ light shines freely from the inside out, doesn't it? And that's when we truly know and understand what's inside. Thank you for being here today. God bless you.